Hello, Salesforce Ohana, Walters954 here, and today I have a guest, Steven, on to talk about Salesforce formulas. So I know there's been a lot of chatter going around recently, we want some explanations on some formulas and some of the more common formulas that are used. So today, Steven and I are going to actually be building a flow and combining some really important formulas for everybody to look at. But before we get into that, Steven, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, so my name's Stephen Trumbull, sometimes go by Trumbull SF, so I've got a little website by the same name. I'm reasonably new to Salesforce, been doing it sort of a bit over a year now. I've got 6 certifications through that time, and I'm working as a consultant in Washington, DC, but as you might hear by my accent, I'm not from America, so I'm from Australia originally, but just here for a few years and then go back home.
Cool. Well, awesome, Steven. Thanks so much for joining us. And you're being super humble, man. I mean, getting all of those certs and getting all the accomplishments that you have been able to do in such a short amount of time is nothing to scoff at. So let's go ahead and check out these flows and formulas and see what we're actually building today.
Yeah, sounds great. I'll share my screen and we can jump in. So the goal of what we're trying to do today is we want to be able to create renewal opportunities. So rather than having to copy everything out or try and clone something, we just want, with the click of the button, an existing opportunity, we can make a new version, and we want to rename it because it's a renewal. We want to have renewal at the front. So at the moment, just in the standard Trailhead Playground at Dickinson Mobile Generators, and I put this button in here, Demo Renewal. And so if we click this, we'll get a screen of the button. We open up and we auto-generate a new opportunity name. So we'll put the prefix of renewal, and then a little hyphen dash Dickinson Mobile Generators. The close date, what we're doing is we're taking the close date from the last opportunity. And at the moment, I'm defaulting this to 28 days ahead of what that is, or 4 weeks. But obviously, if we're on a different sort of cycle, or you needed 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, we could tweak the formula for the default close date there. We're using stage value in as well, putting in a default. We'll automatically linking it to the same account as it was before. And then because I'm the one who pressed the button, that's who's coming up as the opportunity owner here. But if I was creating this renewal on behalf of someone else, I've still got the option. I could put Warren as the owner here. The amount we've chosen to leave blank, but I can show you how to put a default value in there as you need. And so if we leave all of this, press next, then that should create the record for you. So pretty short, sharp, simple flow.
Yeah, really cool stuff. Oh yeah, we're jumping into the actual opportunity that got created. But one of the things I wanted to mention was this is something that people do all the time as they're going through their Salesforce day to day, or it's an actual business problem that they have to deal with, is making these renewals. And instead of doing them by hand, you're just using Salesforce automation to get them done. So yeah, what you explain like what fields got populated and set here?
Yeah, sure. So you can see, for the demo purposes, we're only doing half a dozen fields or so, but we can see Warren's come through as the opportunity owner, even though I've created the record for him. Whereas, normally if you create an opportunity, it'll default to underneath your name, and then you have to go in and press this change owner. So you're saving a few clicks of the mouse there, getting the name, keeping it linked to the account that you want, close date, stage, probability is auto-calculated anyway, so we didn't touch that.
Nice. All right, let's jump into that flow. And we're going to be creating this completely from scratch so we can walk through some of the formulas that we used and some of the different thought processes that we go through as we're building out a flow from scratch. So you, as somebody watching this, and maybe you're new to flows or trying to build this type of flow, try to follow along and see how we're kind of going through this process and some of the thought process that we're going through to make this actually come to life.
Yeah, so just from the flows in setup, just search flows, click on here, and then we're going to go new flow. And so for this, there's a screen component because we want to give the ability for the user to change input. If we always had the exact same default values, you could just create, an auto launch flow where you'd click the button and then that record would be created. But with the screen, that'll just allow us where we can change the opportunity owner, we can change the amount, we can tweak a few things. So screen. And then the very first thing we're going to do, if you remember back here, we've got this button, and then we're taking a lot of values from this record that already exists. So the very first thing we're going to do, the first is we'll create a resource. So if you remember back here, so we've got a button on a page. And so what this resource, the record ID variable, will mean that when we're pressing this button, we're taking all the information from the record on the page and we're feeding it into the flow. So to do that, you just open up here, new resource. This would be a variable. And then spelling is important here. So it needs to be record ID with a capital I. And then this will be type record. The object, so we're dealing with opportunities today. So just search for opportunity. And then it must be available for input because we're trying to input something into this variable. So make sure you've got that checked or it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, and there will be some links to Salesforce documentations in the description of this video. This is not just something magical that Steven found or anybody found. This is in the documentation. At least when you're trying to do this type of sending data through like buttons, you need to use that record ID with that specific spelling to make the data flow properly.
Yeah, it's one of those, just must-have requirements. Can't change that one. Good. So we've got, the basics of what we need now. And so now we can start building. And then so very first thing the user is going to see is a screen. And because we've, already got this record ID, we don't actually need to get elements. We don't need to, or get records, sorry. We don't need to get records to get the record value because this record ID takes care of all of that for us. So it's just a much more efficient way. So we can go straight to the screen element. And then so for this screen, always good to, I guess, have labels that make sense. So I'm going to just put opportunity info here, or opportunity information. And then for the API name, my personal habit is depending on the type of resource or component I'm using, I tend to label that in front as well. So I'll put screen underscore opportunity info. So the reason I do this is when you start referencing things later on, once you start building bigger and bigger flows, it's just a little bit easier to search through. If you've got 50, 100 different resources, because some of them will be named quite similarly. But if you can quickly look, I need to reference a pick list, or I need to reference a screen, or I need to reference a text box, you can find them a little bit quicker, I find. So
really
just
cool.
my little habit.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And we'll probably start to see that a little bit more as we start adding other elements, right? You'll add that little prefix to it. So
yeah, I'll
nice
keep
tip
doing
there.
the same thing. So the first one we'll do is we want to be able to have a name for the opportunity. And so name is a type of text element or text data type. So you can search for text, and then we want the user to be able to input here. So you can click or drag across and it'll come through. And once again, so the label for this is going to be opportunity name. And then here for the API name, I'll put text at the front there. And then this is required when you're creating a record. So just good habit to check the box there. So you get that little red star, the red asterisk that's come up. Okay, now we had a default name that came up. So this is where our first formula for the day is going to come in. And so you see here, we've got a default value. So you can click inside here, and then we can go to new resource. And then we're going to put a formula in here. And then once again, my habit, I like starting my formulas with a letter F and an underscore. Some people do FOR, but yeah, I like F. And then once again, what it is, opportunity name. So because it's an API, can't have any spaces. So I use underscores instead of spaces.
Very cool. Yeah, I think for me, I'm a big fan of FOR, form, the whole thing in there. But the F is shorter, so it does work out.
F is shorter. Yeah, I guess it's the big thing, what's happening in your org and who else are you working with. So if you've got a team especially, make sure you're consistent with them. But I'm typically working on my own. So yeah, I just do what I want, which is cool. So for the data type here, so once again, we're going to stick with text. And then to begin with, so this is now where we can use that record ID we created before. So if we look into the resource section, you'll see here, because we made record ID and we made it of a record type rather than text, we can click into this and then it comes up with all of those record options. So if we search for name, add that in, and then our choice is record ID.name. So we can check the syntax there, and then we are done. So if we just press done again now, and we'll just save this. So what are we doing here? So this is, we're creating an opportunity object, and then it's a screen type flow, and then this is create renewals. So once again, your team might have a slightly different naming convention, but I tend to like to start my flow names with the object that it's working on. So once you're building bigger, more complicated flows, that can be a little bit harder if you're touching multiple objects. But this one is just the opportunity. Then the type of flow, so it's a screen flow, so record triggered flow, I type RT or record triggered, and then a very brief description. We're creating renewals. And so if you tab across, API names auto filled in, and you can write a more detailed description later on when you need. So
Yeah. I think you mentioned like consistency is key. So for those of you potentially working with teams, figure out something that works for you all. I think at least having some sort of, is it taxonomy, lexonomy? I don't remember, but some
yeah,
sort of format that you can follow, right? That, you can tell quickly what all your flows are doing or what objects are on, that kind of stuff.
absolutely. So at this point, my process, I like to do lots of little changes at a time so you can see what's impacting what exactly is happening. So we can debug at this point, and then it's going to ask, because we've got this record ID variable, it's going to say, search for opportunities. And then so we'll use that Dickinson mobile generators example again. So if I click on this, click run, and then we can see that it's populating this name straight away. So we've got part of it working, but if you remember, we wanted to have that renewal in the front. So our formula's partially complete, but not there the whole way. So we'll finish this one off, but we know we're on the way to success.
Mm-hmm.
So now if you look in the left column, we've got all the resources which we've been building. So we're going to start editing this formula here. So what we want is to put renewal at the front of this. And then we wanted a dash. So if we left it like that, check the syntax, we're going to error out. Because we're putting in literal text values, you need to put it inside, apostrophes, quotation marks. So you can do single or double is fine. And if I try that, check the syntax again. So we're still going to have an error. The reason why is because we're missing the concatenation or the join, the concat feature. So we've got one bit of text here, and then it's just going straight into a record, like another bit of text. So we just need to find a way to join these two. So you've got two options. You can use either the ampersand or you can use the plus. Either are fine.
I'm team plus sign.
Your team first. I'm team and.
That's okay.
The reason I do and is because plus can be used, in math things. So if you're combining different numbers along, and then so for me, it's just kind of at a little glance, it's a little bit quicker where I can straight away tell, oh, this formula is just looking at text, so it's using ampersand, or this formula is just looking at numbers or currency with a plus. But to each their own. Cool. So do I have a space? And then, so I've got renewal, space, hyphen, space, and then the little quotation mark. So let's put done on that. Save it again before we debug. And then let's check the debug out. So same again, Dickinson mobile. And so now it's coming through nicely. So renewal-Dickinson mobile generators.
It's looking pretty
Warren,
good.
do you think we're done?
I don't think we're done. Let's maybe try one of the opportunity that has been created already. One of those renewal opportunities.
Yeah. So we can just press run again at this point. And, sorry, we'll need to pick a different one. So debug. And so now you'll see I made some tests before. So if we click on this renewal, dash Dickinson Mobile. Click run here. Now we're getting the problem renewal Dickinson Mobile. So
you'll know that it's the second renewal, right? It's renewal. So you're doing pretty good.
But it won't take long until that's going to stretch out. You have 10 renewals in a row, and it's not going to look good at all. So we've got to find a way around that is the big key. So we can just close out of this. So one of the ways we can do this is, once again, we'll keep changing this formula. And so there's a formula called begins, or function called begins, where you can look to see if a string, if a text begins with a certain set of characters. And then with that, so what we want as well is to combine that with an if statement. So we're going to say if this name begins with renewal, then we don't want to type the word renewal again. We'll just keep the same name. But if it doesn't have that, then we will use the naming convention we've got at the moment.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. There's a little bit to that. So if it didn't make sense quite yet, just hang with me and we'll try and work on it together. So we're going to start with an if, and then begins. And here we can once again go to the record name. So saying if the record name begins with, and then so begins takes two inputs. So it takes the field that you're looking in, and then what you're looking for it to begin with. So here we're going to say renewal space dash space. So you could do that, or you could just copy this just to make sure you don't have any typos. Probably the safer way. And then so if this is true, so now what was our naming convention at the moment? This is in the true state. But we can push it into the false if we have a little comma there. So let's make that comma out. So we're saying if this is true, if it begins with renewal, then we just want to keep that same name again. So we can have multiple opportunities with the same name. That's fine, because you can look at things like the close date or the created date to tell which point in time you are looking at. So we're just going to say if it's true, just return the name. Don't add renewal on the front. And then comma, whereas if it's false, the second part of our formula, that's when we will add renewal. And then, so we've got a couple brackets or parentheses we still need to close here. So it'll just be one more on the end there for the if, I think. Yeah, so valid.
Yeah, it's really nice that they added that syntax checker recently.
It is, yeah. It would be nicer if, like, normally when I'm building field formulas, I have an extension called Better Formula, which makes this a lot easier to read. But it's something.
They may need to expand that to flows, I see. But I guess depending on when somebody's watching this, they may actually have either that extension or a more robust checker inside of flows. But as we're going through, this stuff is getting updated all the time. So just even having the check is better than fumbling through it and trying to figure out the errors. So
absolutely. So we'll save this again and debug again, and then this time, so we'll just do the test on Dickinson Mobile again. So we'll just check this is still creating renewal, which it is. Finish, and we'll change the inputs. And so this time we'll find one of those renewal ones. So this is saying renewal. And so last time, if you remember, we got two renewals in a row, whereas now our formula should mean we just return this exact same name again. And that's exactly what it's done.
Excellent.
So pretty good. Do you think it's done, or is there still something we haven't considered?
So there is one aspect of it, and I don't know if everybody is aware of it, but there is a limit of how many characters can be on the name field. So it's not an unlimited amount, and if you try typing in a ton of stuff on the name field, it'll get locked out when you're actually creating the record. So what you want to do is limit the overall size of the name field, just in case there happens to be a really long opportunity name, and if you add renewal on top of that, right, then you could potentially push past that limit and your users will encounter an error. So the ideal state is to hopefully figure out what that limit is, and then if you either push past the limit, you'll have to do something, most likely shorten it, so that you don't push past that limit. And I see, Stephen, you're bringing up the text limit in here, so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. So the text limit is 120, and then I mean, there's a couple different ways you could handle to stop people going over the 120. As within your flow, we come in here. You could put, validate. You could validate the input. You could do a length check to make sure it's not over 120. Or instead, what we'll do is we'll keep building on this formula just as a different way. So it's not the only way to handle it. You could do validation rule. But what we're going to look at instead is if we bring this formula up again. So if it's got a maximum of 120 characters long, and then we need to work out how many characters we're adding in. So renewal, 7 letters, and then a space, dash, and a space is another 3 characters. So we're adding in 10 different characters. So we can only have an existing record name up to 110 characters long, plus our 10 will reach the maximum of 120. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. It's quick math, but I think we're following.
Quick math. Cool. And then so with that, just assume, we did have a user who put all 120 characters. Then you need to choose which 120 you want. And then so, most people read left to right. So you probably want to keep all of those characters on the left side or at the beginning of it. And then so as the function name implies, here we're just going to grab the left. So we can put left in front of there and open parentheses. And so left also takes 2 inputs. So the field that you're talking about, which here will be the record name. And then the second input is the length of characters we want. So we can put 110 there. And so if we check this syntax now, I'll be missing a bracket. So this parentheses is still belonging to that F1. And then so I just need to add 1 parentheses here to close this left statement. We can check here. So I only need to put the left on this one and not in the true statement, because if this already saved properly the first time, we can just return the exact same number of characters again. So we only need to add it to the false statement where we're adding in extra characters.
Makes sense.
And then this one, a little bit harder to test, unless we did have 120 character opportunity name, which I don't have for you, but just to show that this, adding in the left, just use a different example, we're still returning, the expected thing. So we haven't broken anything.
Nice.
Awesome. So that's a lot just to write an opportunity name. But yeah, it's one of these things, kind of the more you can preempt what may go wrong in the future, this similar scenarios will come up more frequently, and you'll start noticing similar patterns and what to look out for. So the next part we'll add in is the close date, also a required field on opportunities. So if we come back into our screen element, so need a new component. So a close date is a type of date, not a date time, just a date. So you can add that in, close date, and then I'm never sure whether I want to put date, close date, or leave it as close date. Seems a bit redundant, but I'll stay consistent for today's video.
Yeah.
So for this one, once again, you can add in a default value. So you could just add in like a literal. So I've got US format at the moment, so month, date, years, but you might be in European or rest of the world, day, month, year, or something else. But we'll add in, once again, a formula to calculate this date.
Yeah, so just really quickly, what are we trying to achieve with this formula and trying to make a change? So why aren't we using the original close date in there?
Gotcha. Yeah. So once again, come back to our example, we're talking about a renewal. So, think of some sort of opportunity which would be renewing over and over, maybe a contract on your phone, or, you might be on month to month rolling phone plan, or, your electricity bill, you get another 3 months, something like that. So what we're trying to do here is, that sort of situation where once, that 1 month contract's closed, then you want to add on another 28 days, another 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. So we'll build a couple just to show you the difference between adding days or adding months. So we'll say close date, and then I'll call this one 28 days. So 4 weeks is why I'm doing 28 days instead of 30 days or something different there. And then so add 28 days on this date. And so for this one, data type is going to be date. And then we're going to get, once again, from this record ID, we'll find the last close date. And then for this, we're going to just do a basic addition. So when you're dealing with dates, the number, if you just do a plus and then a 1 or 2 or whatever, you're adding days there. So you're not adding hours, minutes, seconds. This is just days. So if we want to add 4 weeks, 28 days, that's all we need to do. So we can check that. And then can save.
And one thing to call out while you're saving and bringing this up is, so we are adding days right now for the close date, which makes sense to put it in the future, right? But you can also subtract days using the same type of logic, right? So just put a minus sign, and maybe you need it to go back or something like that. You just throw that minus sign in there, and voila, you're now subtracting a certain amount of days towards your whatever date you had using formulas. So it's really robust.
That's exactly right. So here, I just want to show you. So we'll use this one in our debug input. So this has got the close date of 7/9/2022. So that's 9th of July 2022. So if we try and debug now, and if I can find that record. This one, and then if we run this, and then so we'll say 28 days after that becomes August the 6th, 2022.
Nice.
Good. So that looks like it's working as well. And so you'll see as well, because we've made this as a date one, default date is chosen, but we could always go back in time or edit this if it became a 3-week or a 5-week opportunity just for some special reason. But yeah. So the 9th, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's your 28 days. So if you're dealing with months, it's a little bit different because I don't know, Gregorian calendar, each month has a different amount of days. So because of that, if you wanted to add on 3 months, sometimes people put, plus 90 for 90 days. There is a better way though. So I'll create a new formula here for this. So if we come back to this close date, so if I get rid of this default value, and we'll create a new resource here. And then same again, so we're going to do a formula. And I'm going to call this close date. Put 3 months, this one. Data type will be date again. And we're going to start with that original record ID, close date. And then this one, we're adding months. And then as the function name suggests, that's all you got to do. So last time we did a plus and then 28. We can't do the same with add months because we're dealing with a function now. So instead what you want is keep that function name, get rid of that plus sign, and we're going to put add months, add months at the front, then open parentheses. And then so looking, which date do we want to add months to? So we've got our record close date here, and then put a comma, and then the second input is how many months you want. So just the number 3, and move that off.
Very cool. And I noticed that you're kind of you know these right off the top of your head. So for people that don't know them, there's the Salesforce documentation, and also inside of flows and formulas, there is this insert function section where you'll be able to see all of the functions, which is definitely overwhelming, but you'll be able to look through and see some of the functions there. So try to get familiar with them, read through the list a couple times, and every once in a while you may remember, oh wow, I think I've seen a add months function or formula, so maybe I should go look to see if it actually exists.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry, I am a little bit too familiar with these things.
All good.
Not the greatest way to teach. Yeah, so if you see, if you just click on this, it'll add it in and it'll show you what you need. So the first input you need is a date, and then you need a number. So it'll kind of give you those hints. If you want to replace that date, let's just do that. So we've added this in. And I have this highlighted first, and then you choose your resource. So that close date, it'll just replace the date for you as well. So you don't have to go ahead and delete it afterwards. So just a little time saver tick there, and then 3. And yeah, like you were saying before, Warren, sometimes you want to put a time earlier. Think about if we were to create a reminder or an alert, we might want to do the closed 1 month before the close date. So there's not a minus months for that. So you still use the add months formula, but you just put a negative sign in there. So you could do add months -1.
Nice.
So, yeah. But yeah, we're going to put this 3 months in advance. So if you wanted to do a year, you do 12. So there's no add years. You're just going to do a sum of the number of months. So 12 for 1 year, 24 for 2 years. Cool. So that's still valid. Done. Save again. And we'll have a quick look. We were at 7/9 before, and then now we are 10/9, so October the 9th. So we've got 3 months exactly.
Sounds
So
about right.
Sounds about right. Yeah, one of the other cool things about add months is if you're on, for example, February 28th or January 31, you do add months, rather than if you did, a plus 30 for 30 days in advance, it add months, if you're on the end of a month, will take you to the end of the next month. So January 31, add months 1 will take you to February 28, and February 28, add months 1 will take you to March 31 again. So if something always needs to be the last day of the month, you're much better doing add months rather than trying to build some really complicated if formula.
Yeah, really cool call out there.
Handle all of those. Beautiful. So next step along, stage, another required field and opportunity. So we can add that in now. So stage is a pick list value. So we can search again in the components, find a pick list, and then just label it as it is. And then I can do PL for pick list stage. This should be required as well because you're gonna, fail. Your record will fail to create afterwards. So we can automatically populate this. You don't need to type in, your qualification, close won, close lost. Flows can do this all for you. So we can create a choice set here. So if we go new choice resource type, we're going to do a pick list choice set. So generate a set of choices using the values of a pick list that already exist. So if we open this up, and then once again, it's pick list choice set. So I do TCS stage. This is where, pick list called stage, and then we've got a pick list choice set called stage, where, if I just left this as stage and stage, this is where it can get a bit confusing, but this is, why I like this little abbreviation at the start. The opportunity, we're dealing for the object. We want a pick list choice, and then now it'll only return the different pick lists on the opportunity object. And so we just need to find stage name, stage, and we'll leave it default order. Done. Save that one again and have a little look that it's populating correctly.
Yeah, and I really love that you're continuing to just make an incremental change, then going back and make the incremental change, because it'll really help you as you're building along. You don't want to build this. I generally don't recommend building this giant, enormous thing and then trying to figure out the errors at the end of it, because it can be kind of tedious.
Yeah, especially if you've got things which have become dependent on each other with your building, and then you built something wrong at the very beginning, and then you're going to have to make 10 changes along the way. So, it might seem a little bit slow what I'm doing now, but yeah, sometimes it will actually save you a lot of time. So this has just come through nicely. We've got all of our standard changes here, but you'll see we've got no default value selected. So we can fix that up if we want. And so once again, this will depend on your sales process, what you want here. But you can, sorry, that's a bit quick. You've got the default value choice just down here. And then so you can enter value or search. And so these will all populate. So, we could have it whatever you want. I'll do qualification because that's what I showed you in the original demo. And, save that. Next one along is we want to put the account, have the selection. So if we come, so account is related to the opportunity via a lookup. So we can search for a lookup component, and if we add that in, and so this is where I guess sometimes people can have a little bit of trouble understanding how to populate these lookup fields because it can be
there's a lot on here, right? Like, just look how many fields are in comparison to some of the other ones. So yeah, going through this, I think, will really help.
Yeah. So the API name, once again, that's just kind of what we're referencing. So I'm just doing LU for lookup, and then we're looking up an account ID. And so the field API name, so when you're on the opportunity object, I still got this open. So if you can see, if we're trying to find the account name, the field name is account ID. So you can just copy that and bring that in. And then the label. So the label is what's going to appear on that screen, what you want the user to see. So for that account. And then the object API name. So this is the name of the object which is looking up to the account. So here we're dealing with an opportunity is the object. And then, so this is, if we come to the details of the object, we're getting this API name. So because it's a standard field, it's exactly just opportunity. There's no __C. But if you're dealing with a custom field, make sure you're getting the API name and not just its label.
Yep, good call out there.
And so when you do it correctly, now you'll see, so if I just hide that for a moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, it didn't break. Normally it breaks for me, right?
Normally it breaks, yeah. And then so once you've got it working correctly, so this search accounts ... that'll is kind of your hint that you're going to be able to look up to the correct object. So I haven't typed in accounts anywhere, but it knows because I'm from the opportunity, I'm looking at account ID, and it knows the plural label of account is accounts, and then so the lookup is populating there.
Nice. Now, so is there a way to default this?
There is.
I guess let's save it, run it through the demo, and then I know it's going to be blank already. I might be skipping ahead a little bit, so I'm wondering if there's a way to default this.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So it is blank at the moment. So we've got that nice search accounts kind of in the faded text, and then it'll show those most recent ones. So we could add in something there, but let's try and default that. So 99% of the time, a renewal opportunity is going to be with the same account, but there will be different other cases where you might want to, I guess, kind of be cloning something, and then just link it to a different one. So this is why we're keeping this as an editable field here. So coming further down, we have got here, it's called record ID. So a little bit different rather than being default value, like everything else is labeled. In a lookup, they decided to keep it as record ID. So here you could put in the ID, which you want populating. So you wouldn't want to hard code something here because obviously different opportunities are going to belong to different accounts. And so this is where we need to, once again, rely on that record ID variable we created at the very start. So you can start searching for it and then click through. And then we need a record ID is your clue here. And then, so for that, we need the account. So we need to click through again. And then within the account, now we need the ID of that. So we can scroll down and you can click on it, or if you just type in ID, you could just tab across as well. It's the same thing. It's not going to look too pretty, just this curly bracket record ID.account.id, but this will do the trick.
Nice.
So save.
Let's cross our fingers, hopes that it works, right?
Be embarrassing if it doesn't.
That's right.
So we'll do Dickinson. So we can see here, this is related to Dickinson PLC is the account. So that's what we're expecting to populate now in this lookup for us. And that's exactly what we've got.
Perfect.
Awesome. So next along the line is the opportunity owner we wanted to put in. So if we didn't create an opportunity owner, it would just default to the running user. But we want to have the opportunity where, we could give this renewal opportunity to someone else. So same again. So I'm going to type in LU lookup and then opportunity owner. This one, yeah, I'm not exactly sure why, but for the field API name, you can't use the opportunity owner. You can't look up to that. So instead, you got to look at the created by field.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, caught me in testing out. I hadn't come across that before, but so it's called created by ID. So you can't search, which is a little bit annoying. But so if you can't remember that exactly, just come back to your opportunity object and then look at for create. And then so here, this created by ID, which is a lookup to the user. Pop that in there. Then the label is what the person's going to see. So opportunity owner. And so still got no preview available. And then the object which we're coming from is opportunity. Now we can see we've got this search people, which is good. So it looks like it's working. And then we'll go straight away. We'll pop this default value in for the record ID. And so we'll go record ID and then owner ID here. And then once again, just going to type in ID. And you just see a whole bunch of different IDs are found in all these different ones. But we're just looking at this one here. So this time I'm not going to click it. I'll just show you what happens. You know, you can just tab and this will still work.
Cool.
Coming across. So save and debug. Pick a different one. So Renewal Burlington. And there we go. So come across. This one's coming up 3 months in advance. Still got my name, but we could, if we wanted, change it over to you, Warren.
Hey,
you can make some commission.
Got a new opportunity. Gotta go make some sales. Sales.
That's it. And then last field we'll add in is just the amount field. And then so amount is a currency, dealing with money. So once again, your input will be currency here. So label amount, CUR for currency, CUR underscore amount. And then this one doesn't need to be required at all. Yeah, because maybe you don't know how much it's worth at the moment. And then so once again, because we're dealing currency, probably good to, not sure why they don't default this to 2, but
probably should be at 2, yeah.
Yeah, typically. So we'll leave this open, but we could quite easily get the default value, do the record ID, get the value of the previous one. So it's just be the exact same process, but we'll leave this just.
Yeah,
like
and when possible, I want to call out that you should try to use the correct field format, the field for whatever input you're building inside of your flow, because you'll get formatting and things like automatically for you. So for date, you saw that there's a date picker. For amount, once we get into it, we'll see that there's like currency formatting and stuff like that. So it's important that you use the correct type of input for your different flows instead of just trying to make everything text, because then you're losing some of the power behind some of these different fields.
Yeah, then you'd have to make a whole bunch of unnecessary formulas to convert text into a value if you're trying to populate a number field and things. So yeah, it's just simpler. You know, if you're dealing with text, use text. If you're dealing with currency. If you're dealing with numbers, use numbers. They've got it all, passwords, pick list, multi-select pick list. Awesome. So just final check at the moment. So once again, all we've got at the moment is a screen. Nothing's happening. We're not updating, saving, creating anything at this point in time. But if we come through here, we can see, everything's populating, and then we'll just put 500 in, tab across, and you'll see we'll get that $sign. It's all set up in USD, and we've got our 2 decimal places there. And if we finish, we can look at on the side in the debug log, everything which I guess is being assigned to those different components we made. So we can see that my pick list choice was qualification, my text opportunity name, value at runtime, renewal Dickinson mobile generators, the date, September 11, 2022. So we've got all these values all the way along. And now we're going to create the record. And so this is everything that we're going to be referencing here will be the next part. So I'm going to leave this tab open just in case we decide to refer back to it for the next bit.
Cool.
So we're creating a record. So you can just search for create, find that nice pink one. So create opportunity. And so here we're only creating a single record, so we'll leave this as 1. But how to set the record field, so we're going to use literal values from our screen. So if we click on this one, now you choose what type of object you want to create. We're going to choose opportunity. And then this is just simple of going through that list of everything which we've asked for and then populating it. So first thing, the order is not important, but just I guess for referencing back, sometimes it's nice to do in that same order that you built things. So first thing we asked for was the name, and then the value we're going to give to the record name. You can start searching because we labeled everything nicely. What's in that screen component? So we could, if we did the formula, it'd put in that renewal opportunity name, but it wouldn't keep track of any changes which a user had made. So we don't want to use the formula here. We want to use the screen component. That one. Next one along, close date. And once again, we can just search for close date. And so we don't want the formulas. We want what was actually in the screen. Keep going down. Then what's next? Account ID, I think. Oh no, I had the pick list in that stage. The stage name. And then we want that pick list choice set here. So PCS, search stage, and it'll come up. And then the account, so account ID is equal to the lookup we had of the account ID. So here, there's just 2 clicks you need to do. So come through here, and then you want to choose the record ID. So we could do, if you did the name, it'd try and put, that literal name, Dickinson, into what where they're expecting that 15-digit Salesforce ID. So just make sure you're clicking record ID here. And then owner, the owner, same thing, click through record ID. And then last but not least, amount will be amount, currency amount.
Yeah, so those prefixes on your labels really helped out in terms of being able to know which records were on this or which values were on the screen, which one you should pull, and not getting tripped up on this. Because just imagine if we had like 3 or 4 screens and you're trying to do the same exact thing, it would be really hard, or you'll have to do needle in a haystack kind of stuff to figure it out.
Yeah. So just spend a little bit of time, label your screens really obvious. If you're going through, option 1, 2, 3 screens ABC, or different decision paths and thing, you can, if it's a 1-month renewal, 3-month renewal, you could get really specific with all your different naming. So we've got that. Now let's just have a test. So this should be all we need for the actual flow. We've got everything made out. So if we debug this, and then we'll pick Dickinson Mobile. We run this. So everything's come through here. Just so everyone knows we're not cheating, give me a random number, Warren.
1337.
1337, complete. Very cool.
Why not?
Why not? All right, so that's all come through, and then I'll add that on the end here as well, just so you can see that when I'm going to take the actual input here, and then we'll go next, and it has broken. What's going on here? You're inactive.
I'm inactive.
Inactive owner or user before.
Am I inactive or are you inactive? Are you actually in the org?
I thought I was.
Yeah, maybe let's check this out again. And I mean, this happens, right? Like as you're going through your flows, you may run into errors and things like that, and you'll have to figure it out. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Look at that. Check out the owner.
Yeah. This was good pickup. Yeah, I was doing some work with Stephen. So a quick segue. Stephen Pricer has his show Study with Stephen. You can see I'm still in the same org. So I did a session with him a little while ago.
Nice.
So that's why it's come up. Didn't notice. So yeah, good spot. So we'll change it to me. So yeah, in a free org. So we've only got 2 licenses. So Stephen Pricer got deactivated. Warren Walters got activated.
I'm in.
You're in. So now there we go. Got that nice blue run again. No red. So well spotted.
Perfect.
Thanks for that. And then, so if we see here on this create records, we can come through, and then so this is the ID of the new record that was created. So you can just copy this one, and then if you come back to an opportunity screen, if we just update the URL and run that.
Crossing our fingers. I hope we got it. Let's see the information.
Yeah, so we got our leaked one.
Awesome.
Come to qualification, and then so 3:07. Yeah, this must be in Pacific time because I'm in 6 o'clock over here. But yeah, that is the one that we've made. So the flow itself is working now. Just the final thing we want to do is create this button again, replicate that. So to do that, you just need to come back to our flow screen, and it needs to be activated before you can do this. So if you're trying to create your new action and you can't find the flow you're looking for, you probably just forgot to do this.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me, right? So,
yeah.
What's up with my flow? What's going on?
Everyone's done it. So this is active now. So if we come to the opportunity object again, and then we want to just go buttons, links, and actions. And then you can see, so I've got my demo renewal here already, which is doing a flow. So we'll just do the same thing. So we're going to go new action. And then for the action type, this is where you'll search for flow. And so if your flow is not active, this is where we're saying it's not going to appear in this list. And so the one I created with you today was create renewals, I believe. Yeah, so opportunity screen, create renewals. Then the label, create renewal. Tab across with that. Awesome. So we've got a new action exists now. So you can click this one. I always think this is such a bad UI that you can't.
It's from Classic. I'm sure they're gonna update it eventually, but yeah, you do have to go back to the opportunity object.
Yeah, it's a little bit silly. And then so go to page layout, and then so we're dealing with the opportunity layout. Okay, and then so you can see here where I've got my demo renewal for the other ones. They're in the Salesforce mobile and Lightning experience actions, so not in the Classic publisher. So make sure you click on mobile and Lightning, and then live create renewal. So I'll pop that at the front there. I'll take this demo one off just so we don't have 2 buttons doing the same thing. So save this, and then hopefully I don't have a caching problem. As we try to refresh this page.
Let's see it.
And there we go. So cool. We've got this live one, and then so just to prove it still works. So we've got renewal already. So we're expecting to get the same name, so not 2 renewals. And test that. So it's still Elite version 2. Just pick Christmas. Why not? And then We'll give this one to you in the org, Warren.
Well, I guess I work hard even on Christmas, right?
always be closing.
That's right.
Now we can do the same thing. Cool. So here, reasonably basic flow where you're just stuck on this same screen. So you could obviously advance this so the person would be redirected to the new opportunity that was created. But just I guess this video has gone on for a while. So
we'll add that to part 2.
yeah, add it to part 2 because this was I guess most about the formula screens. How you can simplify lives a little bit. But there's a whole bunch of cool additions, App Exchange products, unofficial things which can zoom you around different parts of Salesforce really quick.
Yeah, awesome. And really quick, can you click that button one more time? I just want to kind of emphasize as we close this out, like we are, because we set up that record ID with the opportunity object in the beginning, we're getting that information from this specific opportunity and loading it inside of our flow. So we didn't do any like additional get records or anything like that. We just transferred it over, and then our formulas and stuff like that just all starts to work because we're
Yeah.
transferring that record over. So really awesome. It's not really a trick. It's just something that potentially could be a little bit more well documented or explained to people, and showing them how they transfer that information over and brings it over. So very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, it's possible to build this without the record ID. But yeah, you're just going to make a much less efficient flow because at the start in here, you'd have to do records, and then yeah, you just be doing extra calls to the database for no reason. So yeah, you just create that one little variable, and then you can have these things populated, and then based on that, this close date, we're getting Christmas Day, so December 25. We're adding out 3 months, so which is how we're getting March 25 here. So all based on that one. This name's just been taken straight from here. All
Perfect.
very cool.
So yeah, really great stuff. And these are some of the common like formulas and things that I've encountered a ton of as I've gone through. So I hope that whoever's kind of seeing this or running through this, maybe you're building your own opportunity renewal flow and process yourself, so you can use some of these things that we've built out and then build on top of it, so that it can work for your org and your business processes that you're going through. So Steven, I want to say thanks so much for kind of jumping in and joining in. Are there any like last minute things you want to show, things you want to go over, tidbits? What do you got to kind of round things out?
I mean, it'd be remiss if I didn't sell myself out whilst I could.
Go
So,
for it.
so I do have a formula course on Udemy. So if you are interested, if you found this useful, come along. So there's about 4 hours of content. So we go through a bit of everything. So different types of operators, logical functions, date and time, math, text, advanced functions, and how you use those in reports. So we use some more flow examples as well. So if it is something you find a little bit challenging, because there's not a lot on Trailhead, so I thought I'd try and build out, give something back to the Ohana. So check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, and there will be links to that. And, like we were saying, us being in the industry and being like a formula expert, we kind of know these stuff off the top of my head. But if you're just getting started out and you want to know what all the formulas do or some of the more common ones, then this course may be a really good thing for you to look into and kind of start to figure out all the different possibilities that are out there. Awesome. Thank you so much
Thanks.
again. I really appreciate you jumping in and joining in. We had a great time, and especially for those that have made it this far, I hope you've learned something and you can take away something from this and actually start building stuff in your org and play around with this. Definitely leave comments if you use some of the processes that we've gone through, or if you're kind of tripped up or kind of confused on some of the things that we went on. We can definitely potentially do deep dives on one particular aspect of it. I know we've covered a lot of things in this video, ranging from flows and how to set them up to formulas and some best practices and things that we follow. So if you're confused on anything, let us know and we'll see if we can help out. All of Steven's socials will be in the description and all of that stuff, so you can get in touch with him along with his course. And that's kind of it. I'm Walters954. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, I believe in you.